Myles, as you know, is the singer of Alter Bridge, you know, in our band, and Myles is one of the most talented musicians I've ever met. You know, I believe the best singer, rock singer on the planet right now, and you know, it's great to have him in the band. He's a great songwriter, incredible guitar player, and that's why I really want him to be on this video, because I don't think people realize just how great he is. So now you'll know.
In my opinion, what makes a good guitar player is the ability to express, you know, what's inside, express your heart and what you're feeling and emotions. For me personally, how great someone's technique is doesn't really matter. You know, if emotion's being conveyed through what they're playing and I feel it, then they've succeeded. All right, so now we're going to talk about my approach to leads and improvising. And my favorite guitar players over the years have been the guys who've basically balanced, you know, the kind of the blues approach and using the blues scales, pentatonic scales with a lot of the chord tones. That's a real big one for me, our chord tones. And you know, what that means is that if you improvise over a certain progression, you incorporate the notes of each one of those chord changes as they come along in the solo. Not necessarily all the notes, but you know, just touch on a few. You know, besides the fact that this sounds very musical, it also kind of gives the listener an indication that you know, or you are in the context of the solo. So let's go ahead and see how I apply that concept to my own playing. What I want to do is I want to basically break down my part on the Blackbird solo. I take the first solo and Mark takes the second one. So I'm going to take that and show you each phrase and kind of explain how it works in my little musical brain. And believe me, it's little at times. The first thing I do, if I know I'm going to improvise over something or play a lead, is I want to find out what the key is of the song. That's a big help. And this song is in the key of, technically it's in the key of G flat minor. But since we tune our guitars down a half step, we're going to just say G minor, just to keep it simple. And so, with that said, you can use a number of different scales if you want to stay very scale-oriented. The G natural minor or the G Aeolian mode, which goes like this. Or you can just use the good old G pentatonic. So the next thing that I do is I analyze the chord progression that I'm going to solo over. It's pretty simple. It starts with a G minor chord. And next is a E flat major. And then a B flat major. And then a D major. This is a great chord right here, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. Back to G minor. The first change is a G flat minor, so I break that down into the chord tones or the arpeggio. So. next we have the E flat major. Then we have B flat major. And then D major. Then back to the G. All right. So the kind of the analogy I use, or at least I think of, is it's kind of like a frog jumping from lily pad to lily pad as the chords are coming by. And you're trying to avoid falling in the swamp and hitting the wrong notes. So, you know, I basically look at the whole guitar neck as the swamp, and the arpeggio or the notes from a given chord that you're playing under as the lily pad. I know that that seems like a very strange way of thinking about it, but that's part of how I process it. So let's go ahead and break down each phrase in the solo, and I'll explain to you how that whole thing works. The first phrase, I basically just slide into the tonic, which is just the G. And then I walk up the pentatonic to the C. So basically what I'm doing is it's starting off very blues-based, but when we walk up, that bend that's going from the C to the E flat, it's a full step and a half, which is kind of tricky. You want to make sure you don't bend that flat or sharp, or it's going to sound awful. But I'm bending up to the tonic of that second chord, and then dropping it down an octave. Then the next line goes like this. So that one there, we walk up the pentatonic again. Now when we hit that note, which is the D natural, that's basically the major third of that B flat major chord. So it's a chord tone right there. And then now right here brings us to an interesting part in the solo, because we've just hit the D natural change. But I'm playing a C natural against that D, which turns it into a dominant chord. Because if you take the D chord and break it down, you've got basically a D major triad, and then by adding a minor seventh, which is what the C natural is on top, you turn it into a dominant chord. And it's kind of got a cool sound. Then the next line, as the chord progression hits the G minor and swings back around, actually starts with a double stop bend. And this is kind of tricky here, because you don't want to bend up too far. It's going to sound really bad. That first little bend, when you're bending, you want to bend that up about a quarter step. And then the rest is just walking down basically the G minor blues scale. Now that chord progression is repeating, and it brings us to what I like to call is kind of a melodic phrase, kind of a motif that was established earlier in the bridge, where right when we come out of the big kind of epic, aggressive part of the bridge, everything dies down and you hear. So I take that phrase and that melodic concept, and I integrate it into the solo. So I start it down an octave lower, and then I jump up another octave. Now, on that second half, I'm walking down chromatically. A little passing tone, which I think sounds really cool. And then once again, bending up to that E flat, or the tonic of that second chord of the. and then just shaking the heck out of it. This is the part of the solo where the intensity really builds, and I really want to just get as much emotion in as possible, and I do that through my vibrato and my bends. And then it brings us to the last phrase. And right there, it's repeating a phrase that was established earlier in the solo, which was, but we're taking it up a couple octaves. Now, right there, we were talking earlier about how much I like this D natural, because what you can do is you can bring out that, basically that F sharp, and which is the major third of the D natural, or I'm sorry, of the D triad. Technically, that's not in the G Aeolian mode like I played earlier. That actually kind of takes us into harmonic minor territory. Which I think it just adds a nice color. It's real cool. It's just a cool vibe. And then finally, at the end, I want to build it so that when Mark's solo starts, it's all set up for him. I basically am walking up the G minor scale. But I played a little different than that. And once again, it's all through, the walk-up is through bends. And this is kind of a challenge because as you're bending up, you're going to end up, I think, a full step and a half. You want to make sure you don't bend it flat or sharp. It's going to sound really bad. And you're going to want to put a lot of shake to it. Also, something to take into consideration there, especially when you're using a little more gain and you're bending up. Notice that as I'm walking up, I'm dampening the string with the palm of my right hand, because if you don't, it's going to sound like this. It sounds awful. So especially when you get up to that E string, you want to bring this hand down and choke your B and your G string, or else it's going to ring out and sound terrible. So that pretty much wraps up my solo on Blackbird. As you can tell, it's not real complex from a chops standpoint. There aren't a ton of notes in that. The trick with that solo is the emotion and the passion that you manifest in the way you slide into the notes, and the way your vibrato and your bends. That's the challenge there. So, in my opinion, vibrato is a very crucial part of your playing and being able to express yourself. So don't skip over that one. Spend some time developing your vibrato. It's something that really will define you as a player. And like I was talking about earlier with Mark, I can always tell Mark from other players because of the way he bends the string and shakes the notes. So good luck with that.